This is for you whether you're a man trying to build better relationships or a woman trying to understand yourself better. After years of talking with my girlfriends, going through my own relationships, and reflecting deeply on female psychology, I've come to realize there's one fundamental truth about women that most people, including women themselves, don't fully grasp. Here's the thing, once you understand this, everything else makes perfect sense. The behaviors that seem confusing, the overwhelming emotional responses, and the seemingly contradictory needs, it all just clicks into place. I genuinely wish someone had explained this to me years ago. It would have saved me so much confusion in my own relationships and helped me communicate my needs so much more effectively. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on something most women experience but rarely talk about openly. This isn't about stereotypes or generalizations. It's about a core psychological pattern that influences how most women navigate relationships, work, friendships, and life in general. Are you ready for some real talk? Let's dive in. The fundamental truth: women live in constant emotional translation. Here's the key takeaway. Most women expend an enormous amount of mental energy translating their authentic thoughts and feelings into what they believe others can handle or want to hear. We are constantly running this internal calculation. What am I actually feeling? What would be acceptable to express? How can I communicate this without being too much, too needy, too emotional, or too demanding? Let me give you a personal example. Last month, my boyfriend canceled our date night plans to hang out with his friends. What I wanted to say was, I'm genuinely disappointed. I was looking forward to spending time together, and it hurts that you chose them over me tonight. I need to feel prioritized in this relationship. What I actually said was, oh, that's fine. Have fun with the guys. I then spent the rest of the evening feeling resentful and confused about why I was upset since I had told him it was fine. This is what I mean by emotional translation. We take our genuine feelings and translate them into what we think is more acceptable, less burdensome, and less likely to cause conflict. Why do we do this? From childhood, most women learn that their full emotional expression is often considered too much for others to handle. We're told we're being dramatic or overreacting when we express strong feelings. We learn that people prefer the edited, more palatable version of our emotions. So, we become experts at emotional editing. We soften our anger into disappointment. We minimize our hurt into, it's fine. We turn our needs into suggestions and our boundaries into requests. The problem with this is that it creates a huge disconnect between what we're feeling and what we're communicating. This leads to confusion for everyone, including ourselves, when our behavior doesn't match our words. We say, it's fine, but act distant. We say, whatever you want, but seem unhappy with the decision. We agree to things we don't actually want to do. Here's what this looks like in different areas of life. In relationships, we say we're okay with casual dating when we want commitment. We agree to plans we don't enjoy. We don't ask for the emotional support we need because we don't want to seem clingy. At work, we don't negotiate salaries aggressively because we don't want to seem difficult. We take on extra responsibilities we don't want because we can't say no directly. In friendships, we agree to social events we're not interested in. We don't address issues that bother us because we don't want to cause drama. With family, we take on emotional labor and caretaking roles without expressing when we're overwhelmed or need support. Understanding this translation process is crucial because it explains so much behavior that would otherwise seem inconsistent or confusing. Why this happens? The socialization factor. I need to explain why this emotional translation occurs, because understanding the why helps everything else make sense. From a very young age, girls receive different messages about emotional expression than boys do. We're praised for being sweet, agreeable, and easygoing. We're criticized for being bossy, demanding, or too emotional. Boys who are assertive are called leaders. Girls who are assertive are called bossy. Boys who express anger are having normal reactions. Girls who express anger are being dramatic. Boys who have needs are being direct. Girls who have needs are being needy. So, we learn to package our authentic emotions into more socially acceptable versions. For example, instead of saying, I'm angry, we learn to say, I'm hurt. Instead of saying, I need this, we learn to say, that would be nice if. Instead of saying, this is unacceptable, we learn to say, I'm probably overreacting. And instead of saying, I disagree, we learn to say, I see your point, but maybe. We become masters of emotional diplomacy, constantly softening and qualifying our authentic experiences. The internal process looks like this: feel an authentic emotion. Quickly assess, is this acceptable to express? If not, find a more palatable translation. Express the translated version. Feel frustrated when people don't understand what we actually mean. This creates several problems. For women, we become disconnected from our authentic feelings. We start second guessing whether our emotions are valid and build resentment when our translated messages aren't understood. For others, they receive confusing mixed signals. Our words say one thing, but our energy says another, and they can't respond appropriately because they don't know what we actually need. For relationships, intimacy suffers because authentic connection requires authentic expression. When we're constantly translating, no one gets to know the real us. I remember having a conversation with my mom about this. She said, I spent 40 years of marriage saying, "Whatever you want, honey," when I had strong preferences about everything. Your father thought I didn't care about anything, and I felt like nothing I wanted mattered. That's the real cost of constant emotional translation. We lose ourselves, and our connections suffer. The impact on relationships. Let me break down how this emotional translation specifically affects romantic relationships, because this is where it creates the most confusion. The mixed signals problem. When women translate their emotions, it creates what looks like inconsistency. She says she's fine with something, but her body language says she's not. She agrees to plans but seems unenthusiastic. She says she doesn't need anything but acts like something's missing. This isn't manipulation or mind games, it's the result of being disconnected from and afraid to express authentic feelings. An example from my own life: I was dating someone who never planned romantic dates. He'd ask, "What do you want to do?" And I'd say, "I don't care. Whatever you want." What I actually wanted was for him to plan something special that showed he'd put thought into making me happy. But I had translated that desire into, "I don't care," because I didn't want to seem high maintenance or demanding. I then felt unloved when he didn't plan anything special, even though I had told him I didn't care. The emotional labor issue. Women often take on the emotional management of relationships, remembering important dates, checking in on how everyone's feeling, managing social calendars, and maintaining family connections. But we rarely ask for this role explicitly. Instead, we see what needs to be done emotionally and do it, then feel resentful when it's not appreciated or reciprocated. We translate, "I need help managing all the emotional aspects of our relationship," into silently doing it all and hoping it's noticed. The support seeking challenge. When women need emotional support, we often don't ask directly. Instead, we might talk about the problem, hoping the other person will offer support, or act stressed, hoping someone will notice and ask what's wrong. We give hints about what we need rather than stating it clearly. We translate, "I need you to comfort me and help me process this," into telling the story and hoping the support naturally follows. The conflict avoidance pattern. Many women have learned that direct confrontation is mean or bitchy. So we translate our upset into more indirect forms: passive aggression instead of direct anger, withdrawing instead of stating we're hurt, and saying, "Fine," when we mean, "This is definitely not fine." What can be done? If you're in a relationship with someone who does this emotional translation, here's what helps. Ask follow-up questions. When she says, "I'm fine," ask, "Are you sure? You seem upset." Create safety for authentic expression. Respond positively when she shares real feelings, even if they're difficult. Notice the energy behind the words. Pay attention to body language and tone, not just her words. Encourage directness. Use phrases like, "I want to know what you really think," or "I can handle your honest feelings." If you recognize yourself in this pattern, here's what you can do. Practice expressing one authentic feeling per day, even if it feels uncomfortable. Notice when you're translating and try expressing the original feeling instead. Ask for what you need directly instead of hoping it will be intuited. Remember that your authentic feelings are valid and worthy of expression. Practical tools for understanding what's really being communicated. Here are some common translations and their real meanings. "I'm fine" often means, "I'm hurt, but I don't feel safe expressing it." "I'm angry, but I've been taught that's not acceptable." "I'm overwhelmed, but I don't want to burden you," or "I disagree, but I don't want to start a conflict." Whatever you want often means, "I have a preference, but I'm afraid to seem demanding." "I want you to consider what would make me happy." "I'm testing whether you care about my preferences," or "I don't want to be responsible for the decision in case you don't like it." "I'm probably overreacting" often means, "I have a legitimate concern, but I've been told I'm too sensitive. I need you to validate that my feelings make sense." Or, "I'm afraid my feelings are too much for you to handle." "It's not a big deal" often means, "It is a big deal to me, but I'm minimizing it. I don't think you'll take it seriously if I say how much it matters." Or, "I'm testing whether you'll care even when I say it doesn't matter." "I don't want to be difficult" often means, "But I'm afraid expressing them will push you away. I've been made to feel guilty for having needs before." Or, "I want permission to express what I actually need." How to respond when you recognize this translation. Gently probe deeper. "It sounds like there might be more to it. I'm here to listen." Validate the underlying feeling. "It makes sense that you'd be upset about that." Create safety for honesty. "I want to understand how you really feel, even if it's complicated." Don't punish authentic expression. When someone shares real feelings, respond with appreciation, not defensiveness. Red flags that translation is happening. Words and energy don't match. Passive-aggressive behavior, saying yes, but seeming reluctant. Frequent, "I don't care" responses, apologizing before expressing any preference, or using minimizing language like, "It's just," or "It's probably nothing." Creating space for authenticity. The solution to the translation problem is creating environments where authentic expression feels safe and valued. For women, Here are steps to reduce translation. Start small, practice expressing one genuine preference per day. I'd actually prefer Italian food tonight, instead of, whatever you want. Notice your patterns, pay attention to when you're about to translate. What does the authentic feeling want to say? Use statements. I feel. I would prefer. These are harder to dismiss as wrong. Set boundaries around emotional editing. I'm going to tell you how I really feel about this, and it might be different from what you expect. Practice self-validation. Your feelings are valid, even if others don't understand them immediately. For partners, here's how to create safety for authenticity. Respond to honesty positively. When she shares real feelings, thank her for trusting you with her truth. Ask direct questions. What do you actually want? How are you really feeling? What would be most helpful right now? Don't punish emotional expression. Avoid calling feelings dramatic, too much, or overreacting. Show interest in her inner world. I want to understand how you experience things. Shows you value her authentic self. Be patient with the process. Unlearning translation takes time. Celebrate small steps toward authenticity. For everyone, building an authentic communication model involves direct communication. Show that authentic expression is safe by being direct yourself. Validate before problem solving. Sometimes people need to feel heard before they need solutions. Create regular check-ins. How are you feeling about us? What do you need that you're not getting? What's been on your mind? Celebrate authenticity. When someone shares real feelings, appreciate their courage in being genuine. The transformation that's possible when women feel safe to express authentically, and others learn to listen for the real message, everything changes. What happens for women? Reduced anxiety from constantly editing emotions, a stronger sense of self and personal identity, more satisfying relationships based on genuine connection, less resentment from unexpressed needs, and greater emotional intimacy with others. What happens for partners? Clearer understanding of what's actually needed, the ability to provide appropriate support and responses, more genuine connection based on knowing the real person, less confusion and guesswork about emotions, and stronger, more authentic relationships. What happens for relationships? Conflicts get resolved instead of building up. Both people feel truly known and understood. Needs get met because they're clearly communicated. Trust builds through authentic sharing, and intimacy deepens through genuine expression. I've experienced this transformation in my own relationships. When I started expressing my authentic feelings instead of translating them, everything improved. Yes, there were some difficult conversations, but they led to genuine understanding and connection. My current relationship is the first one where I consistently say what I actually mean, and it's also the most satisfying relationship I've ever had. He knows who I really am, not just the edited version I thought would be more acceptable. So, there it is, the fundamental truth that changes everything. Most women live in constant emotional translation, editing their authentic feelings into what they think others can handle. Understanding this explains so much behavior that otherwise seems confusing. The mixed signals, the "I'm fine" when clearly something's wrong, the passive aggression, and the resentment that builds up over time. But here's what's beautiful about understanding this pattern: once you see it, you can change it. Women can practice authentic expression. Partners can create safety for honesty. Everyone can build relationships based on genuine understanding rather than translated emotions. The goal isn't to blame anyone for this pattern. We all learned these behaviors as survival strategies. The goal is to recognize the pattern so we can choose something different. To the women watching, your authentic feelings are valid and worthy of expression. The right people will appreciate your honesty, not punish you for it. Start small, be patient with yourself, and remember that authentic connection requires authentic expression. To everyone else, when someone trusts you with their real feelings, even when they're messy or difficult, that's a gift. Respond with appreciation, not judgment. Create space for the people in your life to be genuinely themselves. Understanding this about women, and about people in general, can truly change everything. It can transform your relationships, your communication, and your ability to create genuine connection with others. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and share your experiences in the comments. Have you noticed this emotional translation in yourself or others? What changes when authenticity becomes the norm? Remember, the goal is always genuine connection, and genuine connection requires genuine expression. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.